6 years ago, definitely we had a dream to have a hub, and we were working in order to gear up ourselves with the needed infrastructure together with the needed policies. And these were needed in order to reach where we are now. In this position where today you see us all talking about. Now, when we look at 6 years to come, hopefully, inshallah, what we can see that we are having a model that will be replicated and expanded. So what will happen is that if you see the center could be in Egypt, and you will see the radius growing and growing and growing. So that would include all the East Mediterranean countries and perhaps could reach North Africa. The idea is why we are saying that this will happen, hopefully, inshallah, because we have seen so far that there is a stake to each country. There is a benefit and there is a good welfare for each of the participant countries in the model that we have currently. Having implemented and having paved the way, the results are talking to by themselves. So we are showing success. So neighboring countries, as I say, with growing radius, will be enthusiastic to join. And with the paved way that we have done, and the foundation and the infrastructure, I mean infrastructure from political and economical and regional collaboration, I think that it's going to be easy for the 6 years to come to have more countries, and that will be, in my opinion, a Mediterranean gas forum, not necessarily East Mediterranean. No, it's going to be a Mediterranean energy forum ultimately, actually. So we are taking them into phases. We say East Mediterranean gas forum, East Mediterranean energy forum, and then it will be the Mediterranean energy forum. This is what I can see it, and I'm not dreaming. I think that this is, I think this makes sense, and we will see this happening, inshallah. Thank you, John.
No, thank you for taking the question, actually, because I was thinking about it as we walked up. Did you think we'd have the Minister of Lebanon sitting at the table and the Minister of the Palestinian Authority? It's quite extraordinary, the activities that are taking place. I was suggesting in our opening session with the European Union, the African Union, and His Excellency on our discussion today that gas could serve as a bridge politically. We've established an economic zone here. I go back 10 years on this story because I was doing it in Lebanon when they made the initial exploration discoveries, and know the scale of what's available in Lebanon. How do you feel now that you see a breakthrough for development taking place? Many didn't think we'd be having this conversation today. It's taken a while.
Yes, definitely. First of all, I'd like to thank His Excellency, my friend Minister Mullah, and all the organizers and yourself for being here, and also want to express the fact that I find what His Excellency just mentioned about the Mediterranean Energy Forum as an inspiring objective. I think the more you can have interconnections in terms of not only gas but also electricity and other forms of energy, the more you will be able to have optimal solutions for every country. We are at a time where energy security and energy transition have converged. So we can no longer think of one without thinking of the other. And while we are looking for more sustainable energy sources and future, we at the same time have to make sure that these sources are secured and are as diversified as possible, so that we are not hostile or victim to only one single source. In that spirit, I find that what happened in Lebanon over the last year, especially with regard to the historic agreement of the delineation of the maritime borders, to be quite dramatic between quotes as in its importance in terms of providing stability for all of the Mediterranean region, and indeed maybe the region, the broader.
You see it the same way then?
Yes, it's a stabilizing factor. It's a historic stabilizing factor that will first provide the needed security for Lebanon to exploit all its resources with many partners that would otherwise not be encouraged to participate, and that I have heard it with my own ears, that they're not encouraged to participate because of this issue and the lack of assurance that they would have from doing so. And now that barrier has been removed, hopefully for a long time, if not forever. At the same time, we have not given up any of our resources, whether we're talking about meter squares in terms of water borders and water molecules, and we have not given up also what's underground, because we have the right for all of our share of the Kana field and what's in the Block 9, regardless where it's going to lie, south or north of the line. That's a detail.
So you're satisfied with the agreement that you have?
We are very.
There's some controversy around it, as you know.
They say that I'm a technocrat in the sense that I'm new into the world of politics. I just volunteered, hopefully, to be able to contribute something to my country. At the same time, with this mindset of an objective view, I think we achieved the maximum that could be achieved at this stage. There is no. We can always dream of more, but you have to think of what's achievable. And I think we seized a very fortunate moment in history where we had a global demand, where we had soaring gas prices, where we had everybody wanting the gas of the Mediterranean, where there was a global need for stability in the region. We maximized really, and we also seized a period during which we were able for once to have all the Lebanese people and their leaders rally behind the common objective, and I think that was instrumental in making this a success story. The results are today that Qatar Energy just entered into the agreement, the JV agreement with Total and with Total Energies and also Eni, and they have even visited us very recently, maybe a few weeks ago, and have expressed with a lot of positivism their intent to drill the first exploratory well at the end of the summer 2023, with in mind to have finished the drilling before the end of the year or by the end of the year.
So a very good timeline. Why don't you park it there, and I'm going to come back on the ability to raise money for this. I mean, you have three good partners already. The Qataris came in to replace the Russian investment there, so it's an interesting sign that the GCC countries are looking at the basin. It's really terrific to have you, Minister Mirlam, and I wanted to find out if that spirit of what we saw transact in Lebanon can transfer over to the Palestinian territories. Do you see hope now that you can unlock the political challenges to get access to your field, particularly the Gaza Marine field, going forward? What do you think today as you sit here in Cairo at our forum?
Well, it's important to have the main title, which is hope. In our situation, it's different than any other places.
I know that.
It's, we are a state under occupation. We are having 62% of our land under Israeli military and administrative authorities. All this contributes to hinder and to slow down the development of the hydrocarbon sector. I tried actually since I joined the Palestinian Energy Authority to move and accomplish things on the ground, but always we faced the Israeli obstacles. Okay, and we joined several regional and international platforms and forums such as the EMGF, which helped us in moving and sitting with the Israelis in order to move ahead in terms of the natural gas in East Mediterranean. As you know, Palestine, one of the first countries that discovered natural gas in East Mediterranean since 1999. Up till now, still in the ground. It's not been developed. But with help of Egypt and with efforts of His Excellency Mullah, we reached a memorandum of understanding to deploy the Egyptian companies to develop the natural gas, the gas marine, Gaza field. This will help in initiating future initiatives to explore and discover more natural gas in Palestinian maritime.
Excellent.
And this is the same applies on West Bank, where we have 62% of our land under military occupation. We have no right to explore without Israeli permits.
Do you think you can tackle the West Bank as well, or?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, we are our strategy to tackle actually all West Bank and Gaza, because this is our right over our natural resources, and we will keep trying. Okay, there is a hope, and if there is no hope, then we lose the momentum. So we will keep the hope and we'll keep it within our people.
Good. I mean, I think, if I can ask you very quickly, the breakthrough we saw in Lebanon, I would imagine you'd think is pretty encouraging then, right?
Yeah, it's encouraging, and we are copying the model of Lebanon, and this is something that we are working on for a long time, but now we need to designate the economic zone within Gaza Strip where we can have free access to our natural resources.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We'll circle back. I want also to have you think about the investments and the investors that are willing to come in. Yeah. We had that debate about who's willing to finance, because we need to send the market signals that we talked about in our previous session. Secretary General, it's good to have you back. The conversations we've had over the last few years and the progress we've seen, I talked with His Excellency to look out 6 years. Can you strike the balance now as the Eastern Mediterranean Gas Forum and say, how do we do the decarbonization that was brought forward for COP27? And how do you balance out serving the marketplace with gas that has demand, and also not losing sight of the decarbonization process, which you were an author with the minister?
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. First, at the outset, I just would like to reiterate how pleased and honored for me to be here among this distinguished panelists, and thank His Excellency Minister Mullah for the invitation. And maybe back to your questions, before answering the balance between energy security and decarbonization, I would like to go back to the question about the past 6 years and the next 6 years. And maybe I could even go before the 6 years. If we look at the East Mediterranean back, let's say, in the 60s and 70s, each country was working alone. We started the East Mediterranean with Egypt, 60s and 70s, exploring and producing gas. By end of 90s, again, some other countries were exploring, and as His Excellency said, the Gaza Marine was discovered more than 20 years ago, and then other discoveries in Israel and Cyprus. But each country and most of the companies are working alone. But what we managed to do as EMGF is to bring the stakeholders together, not just the governments, but also the private sector. And always, as His Excellency Minister Mullah says, it takes several stakeholders to create a hub. Not one country can be a hub.
No.
And a hub is not only sending out gas, but you are a hub for the technology, you are a hub for the facilities, you are a hub for the synergies that you can do to the different infrastructures. So this is part about the past even more than 6 years. What we are looking for the next 6 years is that how can we engage more stakeholders from the private sector, from the technology companies, and also from more governments. Because I think what we managed to do at the EMGF is that to create a value, enlarged value, and somehow to create a stake for each of the stakeholders. And so that each country and each company sees that there is a merit in joining this effort. This is what we're trying to do, and we will still do for the next 6 years and beyond. Back to your question about the energy security and energy transition, I think this is a very good topic, because we cannot focus only on energy security or focus only on energy transition. We see the two challenges very visible. We see what's happening when we have a crisis on scarcity of availability of energy, and we see the challenge of severe weather conditions. So what we need to do is to strike the right balance, and this is what we are trying to do at the EMGF. Last year, we spent most of 2022 on developing the EMGF decarbonization initiative, which we presented during the COP27. And the whole idea is that developing a roadmap, a plan over the next 6 to 8 years with specific projects of decarbonization, starting with what we can call the quick wins. It's energy efficiency, methane emissions reductions, and then we go ahead with the more investment-intensive technologies like CCS and CCS and hydrogen. And through doing this, we're capitalizing on the relationship with the private sector, investments, and also what can governments do, because this will need the proper policies, the proper regulations that can stimulate and encourage private sector to do this.
It's excellent. Okay, very good. I'd like to extend this now to the other part of the Egyptian brain trust within the Mediterranean, to Nasser Kamal. It's quite impressive, this team. Can I give you credit for assembling this team of Egyptian diplomats to deploy? You're looking from the vantage point, Mr. Kamal, on the Union for the Mediterranean and how it collaborates with the EMGF. How do you get that sort of collaboration to say we broaden, or as using the minister's terminology, widening the rings here to make it more cohesive and broader for the Mediterranean? How do you see that from your standpoint at UFM?
Well, thank you very much, but let me start first by thanking my dear friend, His Excellency Mr. Tarek Mullah, for having me here for the second time, and each time this hub, which is...
I'd say it's the club of the willing here in the Mediterranean, right?
No.
I mean, it took a long time to unlock it, to be candid, right?
It's growing in impact and prestige, and the attendance is making it one of a very important meetings where the industry can exchange views on all the challenges we're all facing. Coming to your question, at what the minister correctly mentioned, the idea is to extend, of course, this very successful framework of cooperation to the rest of the region. One of our mandate is to enhance regional integration in all fields, including in the field of energy, and having secure, affordable, and synergy between producer and consumer when it comes to a transition form of energy, which is gas, is definitely something we need to look at and try to expand. Egypt has came with the idea, others have joined from within the region and outside the region. I see France interested, UAE interested, so why not countries in North Africa and countries from beyond, in the EU. And von der Leyen herself came just to initiate a form of cooperation between Egypt and Israel on one hand. So Europe is looking, and let's not forget that 60% of oil and gas of the North Africa region is exported to the European Union. A European Union that is trying, one, to wean itself from its dependence on Russian oil and gas, a European Union that within its neutrality by 2030 and zero emission by 2050 is looking to gas as an energy of transition that's extremely important, that's going to be used all the way to 2050 according to the new Green Deal. So having an enhanced framework of cooperation in the Mediterranean, taking the East Med gas as an inspiring and as the base for it is definitely feasible and needed, and will definitely help secure a better energy market in gas and other form of energy. We can talk about it, renewable also. This experiment could be even emulated and taken into other form of energy, but we can talk about this later during our discussion.
No, in fact, I'm glad you brought it up, because I want to talk about the connectivity we see between Egypt and Greece, for example. Morocco and Spain in renewable energy is quite extraordinary. Am I correct in saying, and I remember correctly as we met almost 20 years ago, you're from the foreign ministry originally, right? You're as a diplomat, I remember correctly. Did you ever think you'd see a day when we'd have the Lebanese and the Israeli ministers at an Egyptian gas forum collaborating together? I think we should get this. No, there's a discussion on the table, right? I mean, there's economic zones being defined. Did you think that day would ever happen?
I would tell you yes, because I've always believed in Egypt great convening power. Egypt has always played an important role in bringing people together. Since Sadat went to Jerusalem until today, Egypt has been able to bring people around the table and to talk about what unite them instead of talking about what divide them. So yes, I saw the potential, but gas has opened, of course, a new field of cooperation. I mean, the gas find in Egypt and then around Egypt has opened the eye that this could be a market that, if it works together, if it builds the infrastructure together, if it can coordinated policy, it could be an important player in order of securing, partially, of course, some of Europe needed energy resources. And it took Egypt to take the initiative, but the idea was the right one, and I see it even being replicated in other form of energy, as I mentioned. Renewable could be the other field where we have to work together if we need to advance in terms of decarbonizing, in terms of getting into neutrality.
Good. I mean, it's also unlocking the economic zones is what I meant, so we're clear here politically, right? We're not talking about political agreement, but it is what you're suggesting, gas serving as a bridge for commerce, right, to unlock that sort of power. I wanted to talk to you about security and the role, picking up on the Secretary General's comments. If Egypt can evolve into the LNG hub here, does it provide that security of supply and delivery into the European market that people are looking for? And do you think you'll be the catalyst for that hub of LNG or not, Minister? Is it too early to say, or I've heard it 3 or 4 times at this event already?
This is what's happening now. I mean, we are already securing LNG to Europe, and no secret that already our partners at the LNG facilities are European companies. So therefore, from two sides, they are shareholders, then they have an interest, plus they are having with us their upstream activities and development and production. This is from one side. Number two, this is part of our exports of gas, where the ideal destination is Europe. I mean, it's the other side of the Mediterranean. So what we are doing currently is that so far we haven't yet reached even the 100% capacity of our existing facilities. Meanwhile, these facilities and these plants are expandable and are there prepared to the proper time when we make a decision to increase their capacity, double or triple. So therefore, again, I think that we are positioned not only for Egypt but also for East Mediterranean countries, that would include Lebanon, to evacuate the extra gas someday. That's why when I was saying in the coming 6 years you will see the radius becoming bigger and bigger and the circle bigger, because it will include more neighboring countries that will see from gas primarily as a reason, not only a catalyst. Currently it's a catalyst, but I mean as a reason to generate revenues, and this is what we need. I mean, in our countries we all need these kind of resource to fund our budgets. This is from one side. The other side is with the increasing radius, and just wanted to clarify when I said it's not going to be a gas forum, an energy forum, that would include all type of energies. That will include renewable, it will include hydrogen, everything. That's why it comes under energy ultimately, and perhaps we started saying that next year this edition will not be called Egypt Petroleum Show, it will be called Egypt Energy Show. So
it's evolving along with the region itself, right?
We always want to have a vision and want to be ahead of things. So when we were talking about this crisis last year, I was always saying Egypt has a ready-made solution, so we did not wake up in the morning and then we found that we are ready. No, we have been preparing this for the last 5 years. So therefore, I'm saying that this will happen, inshallah, in the coming 5-6 years, to have this regional cooperation for energy, because I think it helps also the stability of the countries, the stability of the economies, and it is a win-win, and it reinforces connectivity between people. So I think the idea of having all my colleagues and my friends, their excellencies with us in this forum, whether today, yesterday, tomorrow, within this event, is really a clue, and this reflects that there is an interest of cooperation, and you see something good, that why we are together during this event.
No, it's become like a coalition, actually, of the willing to push this forward. You know, I love Lebanon. I think I've been there at least 15 times in the last...
I've only seen you on TV. But
I do exist in person, so that's a good thing, so I'll see you there. But the challenge, you know very well, and the pressure from the Lebanese people is, you know, we want energy for development. This could be a game changer, is it not, even for industrial development in Lebanon and the support expansion of financial services. It was the Paris of the Middle East, right? So is that part of the equation of the discussion today? If you have exploration and you have investment partners, you allocate it to boost the infrastructure in Lebanon at home?
Yeah, absolutely. We have, actually, you talked about game changers. To me, there are two game changers. One is a small one and one is a larger one. The small one is actually the reason why I accepted, I volunteered, as I said earlier, to be part of the public service institutions, is simply when I had heard the will and the desire of the global community led by the United States of America to support Lebanon finding more cost-effective and also environmentally friendly and also geopolitically meaningful solutions to the electricity problem. And that is by helping alleviating any bottlenecks to the reinstatement and the reactivation of an infrastructure that was already there, which has been there for 12, 13 years, which is namely the project that everybody knows. It's called the Regional Gas and Electricity Deals, talking about supplying gas to Lebanon coming from Egypt through the Arab pipeline and exchanging that in Syria to serve Lebanese power plant, especially the one in the north, and allowing at least an extra 4 to 5 hours of electricity. We are still very hopeful of this small game changer because it will allow Lebanon to produce electricity at a fraction of the cost that it is available to us today. I think something between the third and the half of the cost of electricity generation would result from that.
What's the timeline for that, do you think? When do you hope to?
I'd like His Excellency, I heard him say that it's only a turn of the knob away, but assuming we have, of course, the support that we need from the global community, I would say, led by the USA and also France, and also the support through the financing from the World Bank. These are still our hope, still something that strategically and economically and politically makes sense for Lebanon and the region, and for hopefully for Egypt, I think. So we are ready. We need more support to get there. There are steps happening, but we need to activate it further, I think.
Excellent. What a fantastic discussion.
And that is a small game changer. The big game changer is the one you mentioned, which is, you know, when you have gas sitting in the Mediterranean that other countries are discovering and exploiting, and we are sitting there and doing nothing for the last 10 to 15 years about it. Today, with whatever we talked about earlier on the delineation of the maritime borders, we have this, I would say, unprecedented opportunity to extract the gas, hopefully, if it's discovered soon enough, within the year we will know, and then use it primarily, it's obvious, for electricity generation. I mean, it's obvious that the primary use would be for electricity generation in the southern power plants, and through pipelines it can go to the other power plants available in the country, and to build new power plants that would be gas and other kind of fuel fired.
Excellent. Okay, let me pick it up with Minister Milam, if I may, here. Do you see financing a problem if you can unlock the political machinations of the Palestinian territories? Do you see offers on the table? And the Gulf states have often talked about how to best support the Palestinian territories, right? Do you have the backing to proceed on this if you can unlock the political challenges around the gas fields?
Yeah, of course, if we block the political and we solve the political issue, so there are big opportunity for investment in the energy sector in Palestine. And we are looking forward for that, because our consumption in electricity sector will be doubled by 2030. So
can you clarify? I couldn't quite. Can you lean towards the microphone? We can't quite hear you.
The consumption of electricity for the coming 7 years will be doubled, and this will contribute to stabilize the political situation and to boost the economic and industrial sector. This will contribute to have more stability in Palestine, and this also will contribute to solve the political crisis. As long as we have dependency on one source, the problem will keep on for a long time. So we are trying to diversify the energy sources through different supplies, such as the renewable energy, the building of local generation units which needs natural gas, and we are working on supplying these power plants with natural gas from Gaza Marine through Egypt, and we have a big project to convert the power plant in Gaza Strip to natural gas through the Gas for Gaza project, and this needs political will. And by the way, you mentioned that it's important to bring different stakeholders to the table, but at the same time we have to evaluate the productivity and the results of after bringing them to the table. Should be solid results that contributes to stabilize the region and to improve the lifestyle of our people. As long as we have the occupation and their instructions and laws, I believe that we will have problem in developing in the prosperity and in sustainability.
Good. Can you address the question very quickly about the role of the Gulf producers, though? We had Mubadala Energy here, not by accident. Where the Qataris went into Lebanon already. ADNOC International's developed an international division. Saudi Arabia's got Aramco, but they're also exploring different partnerships in Africa. Do you see that as a positive sign that the wealthier Gulf states are now able to support the Eastern Mediterranean?
I believe, as His Excellency Mullah mentioned, that we are looking for a bigger hub that will include not only East Mediterranean, the Mediterranean and the Gulf states. This will contribute to secure the supply and security for the energy supply in the
Interesting.
region. And this is what we are looking for.
This is the opportunity. If I may, Osama, bring you into the conversation about the pipeline discussions that are being made today. So you have the options of the LNG coming out of Egypt. They talk about an Eastern Mediterranean pipeline that could be $6 to $7 billion. Is it needed or not? I'd love to hear your views of whether there's going to be long-term support for that level of investment. What's the view today, if you can guide the audience on that?
So I think what we're trying to do, working on, is different solutions. Short term, medium term, and long term. Because I still believe that gas is going to be needed for even more beyond two decades. So we need to be prepared, and we need to prepare the supply. So as Minister Mullah said, Egypt has a ready-made solution. We already have LNG facilities that is still underutilized. So if we can produce more gas from Egypt, from Israel, from other parts of the region, this is good. This is the short term. In addition to this, you have the expansion, the possibility of expansion of these facilities. These facilities have the capacity of around 17 to 18 BCM. They can be expanded up to more than 50 BCM, which is huge. But still, we believe that the region has more gas potential. So in this case, if you consume the existing LNG facilities, if you expand them and fill them up, then you might think, or you might need more other solutions. But you need to think about solutions that are realistic, not just economically, but also politically, given the geopolitical situation that we have. So for the East Med pipeline, I think it's not just economically difficult, because with the current high prices, although they are not envisaged to last forever, but anyway, they can economically find some solutions. But the geopolitics does not favor this kind of solution. You need to have a solution that does not cross any disputed territories. But I think there are other solutions, and we are discussing with the Egyptian government, with the Greek, Cypriot, and Israeli government, other solutions that can be more geopolitically favorable. But again, the short answer is that we need to think about short term, medium term, and long term.
Excellent. If I could bring you in on this as well, Nasser, I'd love to get your thoughts on, it's a sensitive territory, but we might as well deal with some of the sensitive issues, right? Because we've been unlocking them as we go along. Osama talked about the role of Turkey, and Egypt has been a loyal recognition of the European Union and Greek Cyprus, right? Can we solve the issue of Turkey in the Eastern Mediterranean, where the waters around Cyprus can be unlocked as well? What is your view from the Union for the Mediterranean?
It's not easy, definitely. I mean, if you look at the recent Turkish-Libyan demarcation, or whatever it's called, which has been a complicating factor in terms of the legitimacy of the government that signed that type of agreement. Egypt trying, of course, to reach an agreement to define its own territorial water and exclusive economic zone vis-à-vis its Libyan neighborhood. The whole issue around exclusive economic zones around the Greek islands, and Turkey's very special take on that, and I stress very special take on that, and Greece's position and Cyprus' position. This is an area where, as Osama mentioned correctly, the geopolitical situation does not allow for a quick solution. We need to work around that. The LNG solution that Minister Mullah is mentioning is here. Other solutions are also here. But I would love to talk for 30 seconds about renewable, if you allow me.
Absolutely. That was my next question to wrap up the panel, so yeah, it's all yours.
Yeah, because as much as the East Med has unlocked the potential of a very important sub-region in terms of its ability to provide Europe with part of its energy needs, We at the UFM, Union for the Mediterranean, and our studies are clearly showing that North Africa is more than capable of providing Europe with all its energy needs, of course, in the very long term, if based on renewable, of course, wind and sun, and of course, hydrogen, blue or green. But what we need, and you mentioned correctly, what we need is also something very similar to what Egypt done with the East Mediterranean gas. We need a coordinated approach to renewable energy in terms of interconnection, because you cannot produce energy and not be able to transport that energy. So storage is an extremely challenging task. Investment. And if Europe is really serious about neutrality plus zero emission by 2050, and the production of this type of energy is definitely cheaper on the southern shore of the Mediterranean because of the availability of land and, of course, sun and wind, we need some sort of a coordination and a hub like the one we build around gas. I want to use the gas or the East gas. That's why turning it into an energy conference next year, and maybe also the whole East Gas Forum could turn into an East Med Energy Forum, because I think renewable is a very important component in making the Euro-Mediterranean region more independent from an energy point of view, and I think Egypt could play a very important role in that.
Good. I wanted to get Minister Omola's views on the takeaways from COP27, for example, like the damage fund that we had here, right? And you built up momentum, and then there was not clarity about the commitment financially from the developed countries yet for those who represent less than 1% of the carbon footprint of the world, right? And there's a lot of skepticism about having COP28 after COP27 in the Middle East region. The CEO of ADNOC, who also is the chairman of Masdar, at the head of COP28. But do you have high expectations? I know those folks from the UAE. I was there for 10 years. I would imagine it's going to be very solutions-based, the same approach you took.
Yeah.
What's the message to the outside world of what can be accomplished on the bridge from COP27 to 28? And I open that up to Osama as well, please.
No, I think that we initiated this during COP27 because we have been able to successfully have the energy, oil and gas companies participating and having a seat during COP27, and to make it clear that if we are claiming that they are the cause of what we are talking about, global warming and emissions, so they need to be part of the solution. So this is number one. So therefore, since we started to accommodate the fact that they need to be integrated as part of the solution, and the COPs coming are implementation COPs starting from COP27, so we need to have really solutions based and results. Based on this, I think that my expectations, and as during the COP27 the discussions and were very clear that the world is still in need of fossil fuel and will be in need of fossil fuel for the coming decades. I wouldn't say how many years, but it's still in need of fossil fuel. But doesn't mean that we should forget our responsibility towards emissions, towards greenhouse gas emissions and global warming. Therefore, we have, not Egypt necessarily, I mean, the energy companies and all this industry has already started to embed and to involve in and to integrate part of their business activities, decarbonizing their activities. So this is going to be an integrated part of their business and of their day-to-day activity from one side. From the other side, which is very important when we talk about the development and the technologies for transition and renewable, together with ultimately reaching hydrogen, low carbon hydrogen, whatever it is, ending up by green hydrogen. So all this needs funds, as we were talking earlier. So I can see that there are the picture is not very clear regarding funds and concessionary funds, especially for that. So therefore, I think that what we'll need to do is these revenues that will be coming from fossil fuels will be helping investing into renewable and into decarbonizing the industry and into more implementation and to creating the market, because actually if we were talking about Africa that has not been privilege of having clean cooking, let me say. So, I mean, we need to prioritize and to understand what, if we are talking with Lebanon, for example, and we are talking about there is no electricity or there are shortages of electricity. So how come each country has got its priority? So therefore, as we have been always saying, there is no one solution fits all. Therefore, COP28, I think, would be more pragmatic. We have introduced the concept, and we have been able to work together with different stakeholders to make sure that the outcome of COP27 would be really helping in the full implementation for COP28, especially, as you said, that we will see the president of the COP is the ADNOC chair, meanwhile is the Masdar president. So this means that there is a belief of this transition, because you cannot spare one type of energy on the account of the other. Therefore, they will be always all this type of proper energy mix in transition. That will take some time, but since we have all said it is 2050, I think that we are all running to reach this date of 2050, and it is doable. But as I said, the solutions will be made through the energy companies together with the proper policies that will be created by and developed by governments. If there are sufficient alignment and understanding, and I think this is what we did during COP27, things will really change and will be more practical and doable. Because before that, I think we were talking just theory, but I think that we started now to realize. The latest Russian-Ukrainian war has really made it clear that the world was not ready. And that's why I think coming from COP28 upwards, it will be much easier.
It's very interesting. Even President Lula, when he met with President Biden, was suggesting that we have to rethink the net zero non-binding approach. Osama, you have the last word. We have just over a minute and a half left here. Should we start to rethink the formula and the approach from a non-binding, non-inclusive debate? I mean, we also can't leave out the discussion about the engineering prowess of the energy companies as they are today, because they're good project managers. How do you see this evolution of the transition from COP27 and 28 to become much more practical and much more binding in terms of resolutions, in your view?
I completely agree with what Minister Mullah said, that the oil and gas industry needs to be part of the solution as they are being seen as part of the problem. And I think one of the good things at COP27 is that finally, for the first time, the energy or the oil and gas sector had a seat on the table. And we give credit definitely to Minister Mullah for having this seat. And what we have been trying to do over 2022 is that to showcase to not just to the energy sector, but to the whole world, that the oil and gas industry is up to the challenge. We're not just talking, we're not just engaging in a constructive dialogue, which is very important, but we're putting things on the ground. For instance, we showcase in the Decarbonization Day a lot of projects that can be replicated in different places, starting with projects that are minimal investments for energy efficiency, for just flare capturing, in addition to projects that are more intensive in investment. So what we're trying to do from now until COP28 is that to work on what we have been saying, to walk the talk, as always Minister Mullah says, and to showcase in COP28 what the gas industry are doing. And this is not just the governments, but also it's the oil and gas industry. We have talked to a lot of them. We have seen them even in Egypt. They are all committed to the energy transition. And it's good that the oil and gas companies are committed to this, because the world will still need a lot of oil and gas to survive. But we need to do it in a more responsible way. This is the way to do it. Yes, we need renewables. There will be a lot of investments, but this is not going to be enough to provide the required energy for the world. So we will need both renewables and other sources of energy in a more responsible way.
Good. I would almost invite you to bring in the mineral sector next year, because you can't have an energy transition without the strategic minerals from Africa at the same time, right? If you look at the volumes that are there, right? So it may not just be oil and gas, it's evolving into energy, but the broader energy value chain. Thank you again for the invitation. I've got to duck out this evening to the World Government Summit. I'm on the tail of the President, President El-Sisi, who's there today, making his mark. Gentlemen, thanks for the very candid conversation, some sensitive issues, but I think it's better to put them on the table as we did with the EU and the AU today as well. Nice round of applause for this panel. Thank you very, very much.